Guys, we've got an amazing interview for you guys today. I know I promised this one in particular, so I'm not going to delay it any further. I want to introduce somebody who basically taught me how to do this. I learned from a kit that I purchased from his website, and when you click on the links that are down in my description, that's where they take you. They take you to his kit, and some of y'all on TikTok have been saying, hey, I don't know if you're using a straw man, making some guy up. Well, here he is. This is Doc Compton. This is the guy.
In the flesh.
Yeah. How's it going, Doc?
I am a real person. I'm not an imaginary friend.
So, Doc, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about your background so that everybody can know kind of, why you're the guy to go to for this, and just give everybody a little bit of background for you.
Well, I'll give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. Basically, I'm a consumer credit expert by trade. I've done consumer credit stuff since the early 90s, which I'm guessing is probably before many of your viewers will have even been born, possibly. But in doing that, let me turn this off, sorry.
Yeah.
Nothing like a phone call during a live video. The credit stuff led me to kind of consumer advocacy. I worked with and for a number of attorneys, particularly in the FDCPA, FCRA space for several years, and was becoming very frustrated with the fact that attorneys weren't going after debt collectors who were breaking the rules. And eventually I found a law firm that kind of liked my take on it, and they hired me to run the consumer credit section of that law firm back in 2013. And from 2013 to 2016, I did that. It was very, very fruitful on the consumer side, but it was also perhaps even better simply because it introduced me to the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which basically we were busting debt collectors who were using auto dialers. They'd be calling our clients on a $500 credit card debt from 4 years ago or something like that, and they'd call 10 times in one day. And the calls being, $1,500 a pop, I would just call them and say, hey, my name is, and I work for, and we represent, and I've got bad news. You're into my client for $15,000 for those 10 phone calls you made over the last 3 days. He owes you $500. Tell you what, why don't you subtract that $500, send a check for $14,500, and if you get a pen, I'll give you the mailing address. And literally, that's how this whole thing started. And I kind of semi-retired in 2016. I wrote a book, and I was doing some consultant work and things like that. And I was kind of looking for the next project, and it kind of stumbled and it fell into my lap when, I was getting these robocalls, 20 a day. And they were for health insurance and roofers and auto warranties and all the stuff that everybody's getting robocalls about right now. And, I had been busting these guys all along, and I used to do what everybody did. I'd block the number, or, I'd keep them on there long enough, just troll them for a little while, and give them fake numbers and names and, just cuss at them and scream at them, whatever. But what I was noticing is that it wasn't making any difference in the number of calls that I got. So I said, you know what? I'm going to write a demand letter. And I basically took the exact same template that I've been using while I was at the law firm and started sending them out to these guys when I bust them. And my very first try, within less than a week, I made $2,000 for 2 calls. And then I tried another one on an auto warranty company, and I got, I think it was 3 calls, I got $3,000. So it was like, okay, I'm on to something. Created a beta group on Facebook, which is now what you and I know to be the members only group. Put 50 of my friends from Facebook in it and said, hey, if you guys want to make money on robocalls, of course, my inbox blew up.
Of course, yeah.
Put these 50 people in there, and they would take the calls. I would simply do the research for them. And then when I had identified who it was that was calling, I'd give them a fill-in-the-blank template that is not dissimilar from the one that's sold in the kit, and just say, here you go. This is who you're after. Here's your kit. Go for it. And people started making money. And they started making a lot of money and doing it pretty quickly. And everybody's like, man, you should, put this in a kit. And I was like, So that's how that's how the kit came to be. I spent the next, I think it was probably 2 or 3 months developing the kit and released the first edition in September of 2018. Immediately, with no advertising, no marketing whatsoever, just social media and word of mouth. People are like, I just made $1,000 for a robocall and blah, blah, blah. And it blew up. So I reached out to a local in January of 2019, I reached out to a local consumer investigative reporter, Steve Noviello, to whom I am eternally grateful.
That's actually the news report that I saw. That's actually the news report that I saw. That put me on the kit. Yeah.
I to this day still get people that's how they saw it. They saw it on YouTube or somewhere else. But I told him, I was like, man, I've got something on the robocalls that you haven't seen yet. And he said, does it really work? And I was like, I've got checks. I can show you checks, and I've got 50 other people that are making money too. So he tried it, and in 10 days, basically, from start to finish, he made $5,750, and he's like, "Oh yeah, brother, we're doing a story on this."
Yeah.
So we shot the interview in February, and it aired in March, and we just never stopped since then. It's just it went viral the next day, and we've collected for the users of the kit millions of dollars. It's funny because every month I try to update the website no less than once a month with new checks that are just like within the last 30 days. And when it's time to do that, I'm always looking at it like, I don't think I got that. I don't remember seeing that many checks and whatever. And I just did it, and I haven't totaled it up yet. That's literally what I was working on before we set this up. And there's probably $100,000 worth of checks that I know of.
Yeah, that people are willing to send you in pictures of, like.
Yeah,
I'm sure plenty of people want to keep it secret.
There's a bunch of them that I can't send pictures of because maybe they didn't put the date in there, or it's a wire transfer, and I don't want to put those up there. So it's amazing. We're making a ton of people a ton of money, and more importantly, I get calls and messages and emails from people every day saying, "I don't get robocalls anymore."
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah,
congrats.
I love it, and like one of the big things that I love is like when I first got into this, it was probably 2015. I had got a new phone number and a new cell phone, and I started immediately getting tons of robocalls, and I was like, what do I do at this? Someone tells me, hey, you can go on the do not call list and they'll stop calling you. So I put my name on the do not call list, and like it goes down like that much, So then I got into what's called scam baiting, where basically like you play along, you fish, you fish a little information out of them, try to get a callback number, and then there's a group on Reddit where we would all just try to burn their phone lines so they have to shut down for the day. And then then I got into making them freak out, saying Ben Chod, Randy Kabacha, all the Hindi words, and and so I recorded a bunch of those, and I had plans I was going to start a YouTube channel with it, and then I never had enough time, so I didn't. But then I just kind of got out of it. I was like, man, this is getting boring, and then started getting more and more calls again, and it just became an annoyance again. And I do law firm marketing for a living, and one of our clients was like, hey, I settled, I asked him, because he did consumer law, and I was like, hey man, is there anything I can do about robocalls? He's like, yeah, I settle those cases all day. Like, they're some of the easiest cases I do, because once you know who the person is, you just send them a letter, and basically, if they don't settle, you take them to court, and exactly what we talk about in the kit. And so I was like, well, what if I had 3-4 calls from one company? And he was like, well, I kind of need more than that, for it to be worth my time to work on. He's like, but realistically, you could do this yourself. And he was like, there's kits out there, blah, 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 and told me about it. And I was like, okay. And then kind of just tabled that in the back of my mind. And then one day I just got a ton. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to go after these guys. And I Googled making money off robocalls or something. And I found the news report. And I was like, $47. I was like, why not give it a shot? Why not? I mean, $47, I'll spend, 5 times that on a good night out, so why not? So I bought the kit and read it. I'm not going to lie. I was, bought it and then sat on it for 3 weeks because I was too lazy to read it at the time. And then I finally read it. And then I read it again.
Most marketing people, that's the issue that they have.
Yeah.
Because they're so idea driven.
Yeah.
They have a short attention span, and getting them to sit down and read 30 pages with no pictures.
Yeah.
It's like, what? There's no way.
We're like toddlers in that way. Read it again, and sent out my very first demand letter. I think I posted right when I sent it out. And it was probably a month later, after a few negotiations, settled that one and settled my second one as well. Because I sent out like 3 or 4 different companies. And since then I was like, all right, well, screw this. Every single time I get a robocall, like everyone knows, like everyone in my life at this point knows, Hayden's going to pick up when it says scam likely. Yeah. Like he might not pick up when we call. He'll pick up when it says scam likely.
That's it.
So, first off, thank you. Cause that, it's made it very easy for me to do this, on a regular basis. And I think I posted about this in the group, but last year I did about 12,000. So far this year I've collected about 3. I have a goal of doing 50K, and don't tell anybody in the group this, but they'll probably see it when it's on my YouTube. But I have a goal this year of doing 50,000 and using that as my down payment on my first house. So I'm hopefully going to have a bigger flex than Jackson in the group.
Well, you know what, man? The funny thing is, some of the biggest gurus in the group are people you never hear from. You don't see, whatever. They privately message me and say, don't out me, but I've made $500,000.
Yeah.
Or I've made $200,000, or I've made X, Y, and Z. They don't want to go out there because they don't want to get beaten to death with questions and sort of. But there's a lot of them out there. Yeah. And the thing of it is, I love the success stories, but probably even bigger than that is the fact that the success stories span such a huge group of people or types of people. I mean, I've got stay-at-home moms, I've got disabled vets, I've got retirees, I got people that are, just full-on hustlers, real estate people, mortgage people, all of that stuff. And everybody's doing it. Of course, you talk about Jackson. Jackson's kind of the sweet story.
The wunderkind.
He was 15 years old when he got this kid, buys his first car, a BMW, with cash, with the money he made off the settlements. He's 60 now. He's much older.
Yeah.
So it's not as cool a story, I guess. But, there's just so many stories. And I've had people tell me, that there was one guy that said, look, I lost my job. And, I was out of work for about 2.5 months. And I literally lived off the settlement money. And it's like, wow, that's like life-changing stuff. You really had a serious impact for somebody. And then there was one, somebody that their house was being foreclosed. And I don't know how it is in your state, but in Texas, when you go through a foreclosure, that ultimately becomes a public record, even if they don't foreclose. Well, all of these investors that want to buy your house for pennies on the dollar will say, hey, I'll save you from foreclosure and so on. Well, what they do is they'll put you in an auto dialer system and send you text messages. Hey, you've got 10 days left until your house is foreclosed and so on. I've literally helped people save their house because they use those text messages and calls to get settlement money and get their house out of foreclosure. So, there's so many cool stories like that. The one story down in Houston, a lady said, I'm taking my entire family to Disney World. Yeah. Thank you, Robocallers. And I'm like, wait, thank you, thank me.
Yeah.
That's the best part, man. It's hearing all the stories, and when you do buy the house with the down payment, all that kind of stuff, man. I'm happy to be
absolutely
there for the housewarming party.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of like kind of informational stuff for the folks, because one of the biggest things that happened when I started posting TikToks about this is that a bunch of people were like, oh, there's no way you can find out who the company is. Oh, this isn't real. Whatever else, right? Because, it's one of those things that it does sound too good to be true, right? And I know that even me saying this right now sounds like one of them, like fugazis. But like, seriously, like when I first heard it, I was like, I know this law is a real thing, So if it's even if it just has a template, like I'm a pretty litigious person, I can navigate this kind of stuff, But what's the law that that this kit and this whole technique is all based off of?
It's essentially the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which was a federal law that was passed in 1991. Again, I'm old enough to actually remember this. in the late 80s, early 90s, fax technology was kind of that was the preeminent communication mechanism. And marketers, we're the result of everything good and bad in the world. Marketers were sending out these spam fax blasts, and they ironically were selling kind of the same things that robocallers are now selling: health insurance, travel, stuff like that. A lot of it was roofing, or you need a new we call it parking lot pavement, stuff like that. Well, back then, before there was digital, people actually had to buy paper and toner or ink to run those fax machines, and it was very expensive. So, people being people, they would, bitch to Congress and say, hey, this is out of hand. I'm, paying all this money for all these ads that I didn't ask for. I don't want them. Well, Congress being Congress decided to pass a law. And they passed in this law a little blurb about cellular technology, because cell technology did exist. Now, SMS technology, text did not exist, but cell did. And on cell phones back in those days, you paid by the minute. Mm-hmm. So if somebody called you and you didn't want to talk to them, it cost you $1, or whatever it was, depending on your plan. So they threw a couple of lines in there about that too. And now fast forward to where we are now. Now, the way I originally heard about this law, there was a guy who's a lawyer out in California who bought a home, a second home, that I think he was going to rent it out. And he deliberately, every single month, paid his mortgage on this second home about 10 days late. Well, day one of it being late, nothing really happens. But day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, his phone starts blowing up. And the mortgage company where he had the note had found his cell phone number and started calling him every day. Well, he deliberately paid it 10 days late, and they would call him every single day until he paid it. Now, he never paid it so late that it affected his credit, or that he had he incurred any kinds of fees or anything like that. But he was getting call after call after call after call. And anyone that's bought real estate or knows anything about real estate in California, it's not cheap. It's super expensive. So he had this $1 million mortgage. After, I forget how long it was something in the order of 11 months or something like that. He actually filed a case. They settled. He paid off the house with the settlement money under the TCPA. Now, the TCPA, how? The TCPA provides for a $500 statutory penalty, which means that they broke the law, period, end of story. This is their punishment beyond any other damages or whatever you have. Statutory damages are just there to punish them for breaking the law. And you have to pay it. So it's $500 per call. If you can prove that that call was made willfully, and the easiest way to prove that it was made willfully is if you're on the do not call. I've clearly made it clear that you're not supposed to call me. Well, if you're on the do not call list, then it's $1,500 per call. And the only thing that would get them out of that trouble is if you had given them express prior written consent prior. They have to tell you, hey, we're going to call you via auto dialer, auto texter at this number, and you're telling us you're okay with it. And if you don't agree to that in writing, they can't call you or text you.
Yeah.
That's really the crux of it. And, in terms of how this applies to the kid, knowing that, you just have to do the hardest part, which you said a minute ago, find the company. And when you find the company, you send a demand letter, which we provide in the kit. That demand letter is pretty fill in the blank. I mean, we've got a 15-year-old kid that made a whole bunch of money doing it, a 5-figure sum doing it. Fill in the blanks, send it out. And more often than not, these companies are willing to play ball. They don't want to get sued because they know that what they're doing is completely illegal. Mm-hmm. And what we can collect as consumers, $1,500 per call, pales in comparison to what the FCC will fine them for the exact same call.
Exactly. Because
if they're calling with a spoof number, for example, that alone carries a $10,000 penalty per call. And if you go and you sue them, let's say they've made 10 calls, you go and you sue them, well, they're only into you for $15,000. But those same 10 calls, the FCC will hit them for $100,000. And if you consider that most of these robocallers are making tens of thousands of calls per day, that adds up very
quickly for them.
And they'll get shut down.
Yeah. So, This is a lot of information right here, and
You
just
look like your mind is a little bit blown away.
yeah. I mean, like it still amazes me to this day that it doesn't surprise me that they're engaging in this kind of a business practice where they're doing these illegal robocalls and they're to them it's a cost of doing business to settle these kind of claims with us. It kind of baffles me that people still don't know about this as a possible way that you could deal with the amount of robocalls that you get and also make a little bit of cash.
Well, man, we're just going to get more people following you on TikTok, I guess.
Yeah, there we go. I'm actually live streaming on there
on YouTube,
right now. And so I'll cut this interview up and stuff and put it on YouTube. But everybody who's on TikTok, y'all go subscribe to my YouTube. But the other big question that everybody asks, because sometimes they're confused, they think that we're getting overseas scammers, the ones that are trying to steal your credit card and all that kind of stuff. Those aren't necessarily the ones we're going after, right? We're going after legitimate U.S. companies who just so happen to have illegal phone practices.
Legitimate.
Yeah. It's a loose term, right? But it's like a real company that's in the U.S.
Yeah.
But the other thing that people ask...
There's some companies out there or some calls out there that we can't do anything about. You mentioned anybody that wants to lower your credit card interest rate. Guys, I'm a consumer credit expert. I can tell you that there is no credit card on the planet who's going to call you and just as a thank you, going to call you and say, hey, we're going to lower your rate. Yeah. That's not the business there, right? Yeah. So anybody that wants to call and lower your credit card interest rate, anybody that wants to tell you that your social security number has been suspended, those are fraud. Anybody that says that they're sending the constable to your house to arrest you because you've written a bad check or you got some bad debt, all of those are just 100% scams, and there's very little, if anything, you can do about them. Those are the ones that I'll have a little fun with. Yeah. But the people that are calling about health insurance, people that are calling about putting a new roof on your house, giving you solar panels on your house, auto warranties, obviously that's a huge one. There's so many air duct cleaning, some of those kinds of things.
Those air duct ones, yeah.
Tax relief, all of those are legitimate U.S. companies. Now, they may have an overseas company calling and initiating the call and then making a warm transfer to the company. Yeah. And even if you can't go after that company in the Philippines or wherever it is, you can go after the legitimate U.S. company for hiring them and initiating this process.
Yeah. So the other big question that I get asked all the time on TikTok, and everybody thinks that I can just explain it in like the quickest way, right? This is really the art of it, right? Is figuring out who the company is, There's a little bit of a song and dance you got to engage in, and it's never really the same, but how yeah, exactly. For all everybody's watching the interview and stuff, without revealing too much, because I don't want to just give away the real value of the kit is like the investigatory, resources, the templates, all that kind of stuff. But in short, how are you figuring out who these companies are?
Well, it comes down to, and we talk a lot about the spoof numbers. It used to be back in the good old days, you could Google a spoofed phone number and they only had one. So they would, you could kind of locate the company that way. But now the technology has kind of outpaced the legislation, and they changed the numbers that they call from multiple times in a day. Mm-hmm. So what shows up on your caller ID is a completely useless phone number, so it's of no value to you. So you really have to learn how to take the call and get the information from the callers. Now, the methodology in doing that varies from industry to industry to industry. Also, the information that you're going to want to collect varies from industry to industry to industry. And I'll give you a good example. Health insurance. If somebody's selling you health insurance, they have to have what? A license. Yeah. That license is probably public record in your state.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now they're not going to give you their license number, but they might give you their name. And if they give you a name, now if their name is John Smith, that's going to take a little more work. Yeah. There's probably a lot of them. They've got a really unique name, like, I don't know, Doc Compton or Hayden Haskins, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's something that's a little more unique. You can actually locate them and so on. And that's true for a bunch of different industries and a bunch of different types of calls. And that's, like you said, that's what the kid teaches you, how to pull the information out of these guys. And they don't want to give it. They're reluctant to give it because they know there's a song, especially now. they know that there's a solid chance it's you or me on the other end of
I
that call,
know.
and we're about to get in their pockets.
Yeah.
But it works. And, you know, all of the other things, the blocking the numbers and the trolling them and yelling at them and I'm going to blow a whistle. None of that works.
Yeah.
Ask me how many robocalls I get anymore. Negligible.
Yeah.
Negligible. I moved from 20 a day, every day of the week, to almost none.
Yeah.
And the ones that I get now, because I've been doing this so long, I'm pretty good at it. And I just kind of explained to him, and of course now I've got the ability to say, I'm going to ask you to Google Doc Compton robocalls, and then I'm going to call you back, and then we're going to talk about the settlement, and let's see how this is going to play out for you. And it is a little bit easier for me just based on that. I'll just tell them, hey, I'm Doc Compton. This is what I do, and this is how this is about to go down. And more often than not, I don't even have to write a demand letter anymore. They'll settle with me over the phone.
Yeah. I had a couple companies that like I kind of got to like I find sometimes when I'm dealing with a compliance officer that sometimes it's a really friendly exchange because the compliance officer is like, he knows what's up, like, so he's just like, it's a matter of negotiating the settlement at that point, and so I kind of prefer those. They're a lot less confrontational. When you got one of those companies where it's like you're dealing with basically the CEO, those guys get so mad.
It's coming out of his pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, people kind of freak out. They're like, oh man, they want me to talk to their attorney. What do I do?
It's like, what did you think was going to happen? Yeah.
Because if they're going to have to hire an attorney or engage their in-house counsel,
it's going to cost more than the settlement.
Ready to cut a check, man. It's over. It's just a question of It's not a question of who or what you are. It's a question of how much you're worth.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And the attorney's job is simply at that point to mitigate the amount they have to pay. And they come in with these ridiculous lowball offers all the time, and they say, we're sorry for the inconvenience. We give you $200. And my response is, a single finger salute. No, I ain't taking that. It's $1,500 per call. I got 10 calls. You got 3 days. And if you don't, you're going to get sued.
Period.
And they're like, oh, okay, sure. And then you sue them.
Yeah. Then
what happens is that word gets around and people know. And I've sued attorneys who were doing this. And settled. I had one company, a mortgage company out in California, owned by a couple of lawyers, one of them a Yale law grad, top of his class.
Wow.
And they tried to, and I filed, they wouldn't respond to me, so I filed a lawsuit.
Once you file a lawsuit, they start responding real quick.
Oh, yeah. They'll usually, when they get served, then it's like, now suddenly they can't wait to talk. And it's like, well, that's funny, And if I'm pretty cool about it. I'll give them an opportunity to settle for a lower amount if they don't make me file or write a demand letter. But if you're going to make me do work, somebody's paying for my time. Unfortunately, in this particular situation, it's you, sir. You're going to have to do it. These attorneys were like, you realize we're attorneys, right? And I was like,
you realize I don't give a shit, right?
You should Google me. You should see how much that matters to me. And the guy said, well, that we're just going to, we're going to fight this. And I was like, can you imagine at your next class reunion having to go back to Yale and tell them that Doc Compton, who doesn't have a law degree, doesn't have a college degree, busted your ass for about $5,000 in small claims court. Think about it. If you really want to do this, and I settled that one for I think $3,500, something like that.
This is great stuff. Literally, I've been doing this, since maybe 9 months ago when I bought the kit. It might have been a little longer, but since when I started doing it, and I got real into it, because I'd always been dealing with these calls and stuff, and I got really into it real quick. It's like it's almost like a chase. I like stuff like this, and everybody that I know knows that I do this. And my brother actually, he was like, hey, you should start talking about this on TikTok. And so I started talking about it on TikTok, and all of a sudden, literally just boom, 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 boom. All these people started following me, and people were, commenting on there. How do I do this? How do I do this? Guys, if you want to get the kit, go to donotcall.cash. It'll take you to Doc's kit. and you can get it there. But I mean, it's just been super wild because, like, you know, right now, like, I'm in the legal marketing space, and there's all these attorneys that are trying to like crack the code on TikTok. And so I'm getting hit up by a lot of guys that, you know, a lot of attorneys that would potentially work with us. They're like, how are you doing this? You know? And I'm like, dude, like, it's just original information. Like, you know, it's original content. Like, no one knows this is a thing, but I want everybody to know about it because I hate robocallers. Guys, if you want to get the kit, go to donotcall.cash. There's a good reason why you should go there. When you buy the kit, you're going to get templates, you're going to get investigatory resources, you're going to get methods to get the information out of the robocallers. You're going to learn exactly what needs to be in the demand letter, it has templates that are plug and play, ready to send. It's going to teach you how to send certified mail. You're going to get access to the private Facebook group where we all share techniques, strategies. You know, there's Google Doc templates of how to track your demand letters.
And that group, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry. That group is probably the most valuable part of all of it.
Absolutely.
There's 2,400 members in that group. And, you know, what's funny is success begets success.
Exactly.
People start seeing, you know, and you join the group and it's like, well, I haven't had any success. I'm like, how long do you have the kid? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
You're
fine.
You're going to be fine. Yeah.
And keep watching. And if only because people get pissed because, well, I haven't gotten one yet.
Yeah.
You know, they're motivated to do it.
Exactly.
And they, you know, it's hard to not do it when you keep seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars of checks going through that group every day. People going, oh, I'm up to 40,000 this year. I'm up to 10. I'm up to, you know, however many 100,000 or whatever. It's motivating. And, you know, the best part is, you know, people come in there, they have the success, they share it. It's kind of an open source forum. So everybody's sharing information about who's calling them, who's not responding, who is responding, and so on. And now, having partnered with some of the attorneys that we have, you know, the one group that's creditlaw.com, Kimmel and Associates, that group, they don't even charge any upfront fees. Mm-hmm. They'll take your case. If you got a legit case, they'll take your case and not charge you anything. And then they just get paid on the back end out of whatever the settlement is.
Yep.
When we initiated that relationship a little less than 2 weeks ago, and they've already taken on 40, 50 clients.
Yeah.
None of them have paid a dime.
And the cool thing about the folks in the group is that they've already done the research, you know? So they have exactly. The documentation.
And they love me for that.
Yeah.
They love me, like, yes, please send us everybody.
Yeah.
The other attorney, who happens to be a personal friend of mine, and he's actually handling some stuff for me right now, was a Federal Trade Commission staff attorney for 7.5 years. And
That's awesome.
About a year ago, decided he was frustrated with how slow it was, and wanted to go out and bust the boogeyman with guys like me.
Yeah.
So now he's actually handling cases for people in the group too. Now he's local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's a part of a law firm that handles a bunch of other stuff, but he's handling these cases because he has experience in it. But he's also admitted in like 13 federal districts. So he can file cases pretty much all over the country. And if he can't, he knows a guy who can.
Yep.
The ones that aren't settling are still working out really well, you know, because people are now getting turned over to these attorneys who aren't even taking money up front, and
then they're going after them. Yeah,
killing it.
Yeah, well,
and getting less robocalls.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, like, you know, I again, originally I got into this really just wanting to take my phone back, but now I'm kind of like, hey, y'all keep calling me, you know, hey, whatever. I mean, if you're gonna call me, I'm gonna run your pockets. So like, go ahead and keep calling, you know?
That's exactly right. You know, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I've had other business successes. I've had other, you know, projects and things that have gone viral. Mm-hmm. I can tell you unequivocally that this is hands down my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Because I don't care if someone's, you know, what their politics are. You know, they could be red or blue. They can be whatever religion, totally opposite somebody else. But if you sit down at a luncheon and say, hey, anybody like robocalls?
Yeah.
It's unanimous. Nobody likes robocalls. We all agree on it. And in a year, of such political divide and where everybody's disagreeing about everything, I'm super happy to be able to provide something that not only does it, stop the calls, it makes people some money, but there's an element of unity in it.
Yeah.
And it's really rewarding to be able to kind of bring people together just on this one focused cause anyway.
Yeah. Well, Doc, I'm gonna probably wrap it up here. Again, everybody, if you want to get the kit, head to donotcall.cash. It's gonna redirect you to Doc's website. Okay. What that's gonna do is it's gonna send you to my affiliate link. Okay. I'm gonna get $7 off the sale, but what I'm doing with 100% of my affiliate commissions, I'm gonna post a video and I'm donating 100% of my affiliate commissions to the National Council on Aging. I've spoken with the director over there, and she's going to earmark 100% of the funds that I give her to assist elderly victims of phone scams and phone fraud. So head over to donotcall.cash or scamlikely.cash. Pick up the Robocalls to Cash kit. This is something I've been doing for like 9 months now, and I'm going to be documenting my journey to 50K here on YouTube and TikTok. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what all you guys are able to do within the private Facebook group. And I just want to encourage everybody to do this because robocalls suck. Phone scammers suck. We all want to take our phones back. We're all sick and tired of it. So head over to donotcall.cash and pick up the Doc Compton Turning Robocalls to Cash kit right now.
Robocalls.
Well, Doc, I appreciate you agreeing to come by and do the interview for my channel and everything. And I'm gonna cut it up all different, ways and make sure that we, it's short enough to be watchable and all that. But again, we'll talk offline about some of those other things we've been working on. And and man, I thanks again, man. Thanks again for making the kit, which has allowed me to collect all this cash.
Hey man, you know what you're doing good work, and I appreciate it too, man. It's not going unnoticed.
Well, you have a good one, man. I appreciate it. I hope that arm feels better.
Oh, yeah, man. Take care.
All right, buddy. All right, guys, so that's the interview with Doc Compton, as promised. As always, guys, links to buy the Robocalls to Cash kit are in the description. If you liked what you saw here, tap the like button. If you want to see more content like this, I talk about going after scammers and robocallers, post scammer freakouts. I'm going to be talking with more people who are involved in going after robocallers. Tap the subscribe button and go ahead and hit that little bell icon so you can get notified every single time I put out a new video. Until next time, thanks for watching.